How's everybody doing? It's not the after lunch lull, right? We're good? Okay, I'm going to test my clicker because earlier it wasn't working, so we'll see. It works. Okay, guys, there is a lie about branding that we are all tempted to believe. But before I tell you what that lie is, I want you to look at the screen and think about that word, lie. How does it make you feel? If you're anything like me, it makes you cringe. I hate to not know the truth. So let me tell you that. Let me change the slide and see how this changes your feeling right now. When I think about the word truth, I don't know about you, but my shoulders drop about 4 inches. I breathe a little deeper. And it matters more when you can believe the words that come out of someone's mouth, or you can believe that someone is going to do what they say they're going to do. Ultimately, truth in branding leads to trust. And trust is the currency on which we trade as brand marketers or business owners. Trust is what we are working with to build a stronger brand. Ultimately, your customer is asking this one question: is your brand trustworthy? So here's the myth, or the lie, if you will. You can build a strong brand. That's not true. You alone cannot build a strong brand. And you might say, but Brittany, what about my brand identity? I paid a company a lot of money for a great logo with fonts and colors that build my brand. And that's true. You might have a really slick business card and website that identifies who you are as a company or a business. You might have really great marketing materials that tell your story. But a brand is so much more than a logo. Marty Neumeier is arguably the authority on branding, and he puts it this way: your brand is not what you say it is. It's what they say it is. Who do you think the they is? Your customer. That's right. Your customer is the one that tells you how strong your brand actually is. I love this quote by David Aker. Branding adds spirit and a soul to what would otherwise be a robotic, automated, generic price-value proposition. Think about that. Otherwise generic price-value proposition. Nobody wants to build, well, maybe you do. I mean, you can make a lot of money offering a product or a service that people buy over and over again. But that's not the essence of branding. And what we're here today to talk about is a stronger brand. So let me start by telling you guys a story. If you'll bear with me. My family, this is my husband, Andy, and our 2 kids, Carson and Callan, and we like to maximize work trips. Anybody like to maximize their work trips? We were flying down to Miami, Florida for a client event with none other than All Pro Dad, which was our client, and Coach Mark Richt. And I'm a big Kirby Smart fan, but I also love Coach Richt because he was my coach when I was in school. And why not? Why not go to the Keys before you go to a work event? So we're at this resort, and I met a lady by the pool who worked in the fashion industry in New York City. And she introduced me to a really cool brand that I'm going to introduce you to now. She introduced me to the Salt Strap. Anybody heard of Salt Strap? It's very interesting. I was very fascinated because this woman worked in fashion in New York, and that's always fun to talk to someone who is in that field. But she also was an Instagram influencer. So she worked with a number of brands to tell their story and to represent the products that they offered. And she told me about a New York Times story and a writer who had identified a cult mom uniform that women were wearing in Brooklyn, New York. And I was like, that is so cool and so fun because I'm in public relations. I love media attention for brands. But I love that this writer discovered a trend that was happening in Brooklyn, and specifically in a neighborhood called Park Slopes. And so, actually, I think that video is supposed to scroll. Nonetheless, you can go to the website. Yeah, there you go. So what is a salt strap, you might be wondering? Well, salt strap is a thick, detachable handbag strap woven with bright colors made to hook onto luxury handbags. And these moms made it special, so special that the New York Times validated that brand. It's the ultimate, in my opinion, of a third-party endorsement. So naturally, I had to get one. So here's my salt strap. It's not exactly a luxury handbag. It's just my MZ Wallace handbag, but I love my salt strap because it makes it different and it gives it personality. I just think that that's the power of branding at work. Salt Strap didn't advertise. These moms didn't tell you about it today. I'm telling you about it. The power of the brand was in the adoption of the brand by a select group of consumers. And the pickup by the New York Times made it so much more powerful than just a thick strap of woven material. It became a brand overnight, which we all know overnight success happens after years and years and years of hard work. So let's look back at those quotes. Your brand isn't what you say it is, it's what they say it is. And branding adds spirit and a soul to an otherwise generic price-value proposition. Here's the key words to me: they, spirit, and soul. What is the soul of your brand? Those are some big words. They mean more. Perhaps your business is thriving and you've been super intentional about creating a brand that has a stickiness factor that really relates to your customer and impacts them in a positive way. But for most of us, we started a business because we were good at something, and it was in our blood, or we found a need and we filled that need. So how do you define the soul of your brand? Let's talk about the brand experience. The brand experience is everything to building a stronger brand. Experience, not advertising, messaging, or marketing, does the work of creating a strong brand. But I need you to know today that that comes with a side note. Side note, advertising, messaging, and marketing serve your brand by reinforcing what customers experience when they buy from you. I'm a brand marketer. I run an agency that tells a lot of great stories, a lot of great brand stories, and we do the work of serving brands. I love that word, serve. It is our job to reinforce what we know matters to our consumer, what we know resonates with them. Let's talk about one of my favorite brand marketers and also entrepreneurs, Walt Disney. Walt knew a thing or two about the brand experience. Would you agree? Strong brands also evoke strong emotions, and Walt knew this. And maybe some of you in here today are Disney fanatics. Anybody? Yeah, one? Okay. Disney, can't stand the place? Anybody? Okay, one. Okay, so it's a strong brand, and that has great repercussions. But I'm going to tell you some secrets about the Disney brand, especially in the experience of going to Disney World. Did you know that Disney World constantly pumps scents into the park, like the smell of baked goods or popcorn? One of the Imagineers, there's secret vents all through the parks at Disney World. And a Disney Imagineer is quoted as saying that Walt knew that scent evoked emotion. And popcorn specifically is one of the top 6 scents that creates nostalgia in your mind, that brings you back to your childhood. So just a small tip, if you're having a business meeting, you might want to have some freshly popped popcorn or freshly baked cookies next time you go to that client meeting. Or have it just popping in the office randomly at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. Why not? I think that is so fun. Also, did you know that Disney chooses a family of the day to open the Magic Kingdom every morning? This reminds me of an Andy Stanley quote, "Do for one what you wish you could do for all." Certainly you can't let everybody in the park early, but Disney taps one family on the shoulder the night before and says, "Do you want to open the park? Do you want to meet all of the characters and open the gates for everyone?" What a cool brand experience. This photo is actually a real family who got that experience and blogged about it. And they met all of the characters and got to open the gates of the Magic Kingdom. Did you know that Disney World employees are not allowed to point with one finger or tell a guest, "I don't know"? It reminds me a little bit of the Ritz-Carlton, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, because Walt knew that there's connotation with your words and your gestures. And so everything mattered down to the smallest detail. Did you know that chewing gum is not sold anywhere in Disney World? No chewing gum. You can bring your own, but you can't buy it. And this just really reinforces the brand experience that people have when they enter the parks at Disney World. Nobody wants to step on old gum. Lastly, did you know that you are never more than 30 feet away from a trash receptacle at Disney World? They know human tendency. When you finish that Dole Whip, you might toss it, and that's a no-no. So they're going to make it very easy for you to keep the parks clean. And the trash cans look nice too, if I do say so myself. So while your brand is in the hands of your customer, you can focus on one thing. And this is the big idea I want to talk about today. Strong brands create memorable moments, and it requires some intentionality on your part. Here's 3 ways that you can focus on creating memorable moments. The first is to start with vision. Even Proverbs tells us, without vision, the people perish. So we all are connected to vision and what's ahead. And we're always looking forward to the future and creating a brighter future for others. Vision is all about people. This is me giving a team presentation for our staff, but we talk about vision all the time because it's not about where we are today, it's about where we're going tomorrow and who we're impacting and how we're impacting them and how we're making the world a better place. Your people, your teammates have to catch the vision. They have to be on mission together. Because true vision is bigger than any one individual. So who you hire has a lot to do with your brand experience. And you do have control over that. The team that you work with, building those relationships, strengthening those relationships, those are aspects of branding that most people don't think about and most people don't even consider. I love what Home Depot says. You can do it, we can help. Because it's not just about what you can do alone, we need other people around us. Anything that you accomplish by yourself is not nearly as rewarding as accomplishing something together. I actually interviewed a gentleman the other day, and he said, "My purpose in life is to be a part of a team that wins together." And he wasn't out for individual success or ego. He was also in an interview, but he was excited about the potential to join a team and win together. He had grit. So how do you create that culture? I'm going to give you 2 words, champion and challenge. This is critical to ensuring that every moment is a memorable one for your customers. If your team is on mission together, if they've caught the same vision and they're rowing in the same direction, then encourage your team to do these 2 things. Champion, hey, What you did right there, that was on mission. That is accomplishing the vision. Thank you for doing that. That showed me or taught me something. I love how you said XYZ to that customer. Man, when you told our teammate, good job, that actually inspired me to do a better job. Like, tell them. Be vocal about it. Be verbal with your team and encourage your team to champion one another, to give the high fives, virtual high fives, and the pats on the back, virtual pats on the back. And then challenge. This is the hard one. We call it short accounts at See.Spark.Go. But we challenge each other. Hey, I just sat in that meeting with you, and I just want to challenge you that came across, that really didn't hit the vision. Like, that wasn't on brand. Have you ever heard the phrase on brand? That wasn't on brand. And I just want to challenge you because I think you can do it better. And in fact, I know you can do it better. I've seen you do it better. But call it out. The more specific the example, the more specific the better the experience is for the customer in the long run. And I think that's huge because your people are creating your brand experience. Your team is creating your brand experience. A strong vision is also empowering. So we talked a lot about what a strong vision does for your team, but what about your customer? My good friend and client, Michael Jones, started a company called Thrive Farmers Coffee. And Thrive Farmers Coffee had a vision specifically to eradicate poverty at the coffee farming level. In fact, his father-in-law was a coffee farmer in Costa Rica, and he saw firsthand how impoverished he lived in Jamaica. And he set out on a mission to create a new model. He noticed that coffee farmers traded at the commodities level, and they were really paid pennies on the dollar for their crops. And even fair trade didn't do enough. It just upped the commodities market pricing by 10 cents a pound. So it did give them a little bit more, but it wasn't enough to eradicate poverty. So he said, what if I could convince coffee farmers to consign their crops to me? I'll do all of the work, Thrive Farmers Coffee, the company, will do all of the work getting it to the consumer, and then I'll profit share with the farmer at the market level price. That was radical thinking. That's a radical vision. And coffee farmers that participated in this model, or that still to this day participate in this model, earn 5 to 10 times more than fair trade. It's incredible. So Thrive Farmers Coffee attracted the ultimate customer in my mind, Chick-fil-A. And so every time you drink a cup of coffee at Chick-fil-A, you're drinking Thrive Farmers Coffee, and you're helping to eradicate poverty for coffee farmers. That's pretty cool. That's a vision. So your vision not only attracts your team, it attracts your customers as well. Okay, the second thing that we can do to create memorable moments is to always add value. Be obsessive and relentless about adding value to your customers. In order to do this, I'm going to introduce you to the visual hammer. So when I was in college at the University of Georgia, I read a book. I was introduced to Al and Laura Reese. Al is often referred to as the father of PR. And he and his daughter Laura, who also went to the University of Georgia, wrote a book called The Fall of Advertising and the Rise of PR. Do you think it impacted my degree choice? The Fall of Advertising and the Rise of PR. And they talked about how brands really get an opportunity to own one thing in the mind of the consumer. And that one thing is the value that they are adding the most to that consumer. That is the nail. Everything else is the hammer. So you focus on that one aspect of your business that you believe adds, or your customers have told you, adds the most value to them, and you continually hammer that with all of your visuals, with all of your storytelling. Good example of this is BMW. BMW makes cars that are roomy and spacious. I don't know if you know. They're luxurious. They're fuel efficient. They are safe, good to drive. But they only focus on one thing, the ultimate driving machine. They focus on the fact that it is fun to drive a BMW. Have anybody own a BMW? Is it fun to drive? And that is the brand promise that they are driving home with every single touch point. The ultimate driving machine. They're not taking away from the safety measures. They're not taking away from how roomy and spacious it is or how fuel efficient. They're just focusing on what they believe or have been told over time matters to their consumer. So in a world of Yelp and Google reviews, which we often get to manage as brand marketers, it's never been easier to listen to your consumer. If you have the opportunity, respond quickly to anyone who talks about your brand online. Whether it's good or bad, respond quickly and fix it fast if there is an issue. Because it's been proven that it's easier to turn a disgruntled customer into a raving fan than it is to take a mediocre person off the side of the street and turn them into a customer. So every opportunity online is an opportunity to create a raving fan for your brand. And it's about how they experience you. So number 3, tell a story. This is my favorite, naturally. The greatest brands tell a story that lets the customer know this: I care about what you care about. What you care about matters to me. Early in my career, I had the privilege of traveling with the Nike 5K for Kids. It was a traveling race series that visited local markets where Nike stores were located. And we held a 5K. I've never run a 5K ever, but I've attended a lot. So the Nike 5K for Kids donated 100% of race fees to the PE program of your choice in your community, right where it hits home and where it matters the most. In that time, and this was the early 2000s, Nike's target market was moms of elementary-aged kids. What do you think matters to moms of elementary-aged kids? Their kids. And what do you think mattered to Nike? Physical education. They found a way to marry those two and to give back to something that their consumers cared about. This reinforced the stickiness of their brand with their target market. If you were going to start a dog walking company, because I know that's why you came to Stronger Business Summit, to start a dog walking company, what would you do to differentiate yourself? Differentiation is paramount in brand identity and branding. Perhaps you would look at your competition and say, well, I'm the dog walker that shows up on time. And everybody else may show up on time, truly, but they didn't say it. You did. You can own your brand promise by looking out there and delivering on that brand promise. But find what differentiates you and drive that home. Finally, design for experience. If we're talking about creating memorable moments and becoming trustworthy as a brand and every experience being the same, Starbucks has perfected that. You know what you're going to get every single time you go through the drive-thru, that it's going to be the same as it was the last time. You want to think about every step and every touch point. Chick-fil-A has done an incredible job of maintaining the brand experience even through a pandemic. You know that it is still their pleasure. From answering the phone to designing your invoices, put yourself in your customer's shoes and ask, how does this make them feel? Okay, now for the fun part, because this is a breakout session. I want you to talk it out. I want you to get with whomever you came with. If there's someone, or if you're alone, find someone else who's here solo, and talk about your brand. You have a note card in front of you that we passed out earlier, and you can flip that over and write the one thing. You can pick one of these questions and write one thing, one takeaway that you can implement starting tomorrow. What is one thing you can own moving forward as a brand? Do your employees share your vision? What can you improve in your customer experience? How do your customers experience you? And then who does this well in your opinion? It could be a competitor. It could be just an aspiring brand, somebody that you look up to. So I'm going to give you guys about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how long it takes. and I may call on you to share your examples. Thank you. Okay. Any big ideas? I would love to hear them. And since we are streaming, are we live streaming? Since we are live streaming, if you just want to call out what answers you have or some of the takeaways, then I'll just repeat it back for those that are listening on the live stream. Any big, wild ideas brewing? Ryan, your wife said I could call on you.
Which one am I?
Whichever one you resonated with.
So when I think about how your customers experience you, we got to ask them.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think you take a lot. Well, they didn't call back, or they didn't have any problems in closing a loan or whatever. But that's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be proactive. Say, listen, what is it? You know, is
Right.
there something else that maybe you just don't want to tell me, but you were talking to your business partner and this was an issue, so we go to another bank next time.
Right.
That to happen.
Right.
Be very proactive in understanding my customers, so then they then will give me information without me having to pull it out of them, and then we have a relationship.
Right. Right, because the relationship is the powerful connection that gives you that two-way trust. So Ryan talked about asking your customers for feedback. And how do you know if they're enjoying the customer's experience? Ask them. I think that's really, I was talking to a lady back there about following up with clients, with past clients, and asking them how their experience went. Any other ideas brewing? Shonda, anything you want to share? I'm calling on my friends now.
So similar, the same question, how do your customers experience you? And we are a nonprofit, but our peers that we serve are still our customers. And I just think about really two things that we do well and how they experience us. We get a lot of feedback really on Facebook and social media. And our concept is kind of tribal. We're divas, and it stands for something, but they want to be a part of that. And I sat here and thought about, from the time a woman enters our building, what part of that acronym is she experiencing? Develop intentional victory and success.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few touch points throughout from theming the front door. People expect it to be institutionalized, but it's a home. So
Right.
we want her to feel like she's at home. We have little care cards in the bathroom that she can take that say,
I love that.
You're beautiful. So I just want them to experience being a diva throughout that house, throughout whatever groups, that they're in, and the way that we learn if this is working for us, because they keep showing up,
Right.
over and over and over, and they tell others,
Mm-hmm.
so that's somewhat of a measurement that we could improve upon, really narrowing it down and knowing what's the best part
Right.
of the experience. But it's actually helped us to theme out that house. We know they love selfies. We discussed that in the first 18, so we set up
Who
a
doesn't?
selfie station, right?
Right.
So some things have just organically kind of fallen in place.
Right. I love when you talked about theming the front door, because think about the front, we all have a front door experience. And then we also have a restroom experience. How can you create those empowerment cards when someone's washing their hands? That's a really powerful moment as well. And then asking them, what's the most empowering thing that we do? And capitalizing on that. That's awesome. That's great. Inspired closets. Jessica?
So I'm in sales for Inspired Closets, and I have a lot of control over, my part, which is sort of the middle part in sales, and I know a lot about the phone call and the initial contact. But I could do a little bit better at learning a little more about that final touch, as Brittany said, of our installation team, and kind of maybe coaching them a little bit better. But learning, well, I do hear good things about them, but maybe learning a little bit more from them and coaching them, and just kind of making sure they're also on brand, and the process is, the same all the way through.
Yeah, I love that. I was talking to Jessica earlier, and I'm a customer of Inspired Closets, so I really am obsessed with the experience myself. But I just said during the installation process, what if you branded that part of the experience as, the finishing touch team, and create some visioneering for those employees, those team members. That's really cool. I'm glad. I love that. Anybody else? All right. Go, Ryan.
I mean, I would think, especially with your company, I've seen it, your employees seem to be your number one customers too.
Absolutely.
They've got to be raving fans.
If they don't drink the Kool-Aid, who else will?
Right. It's something we talk about so much at Oconee Bank, and I see it, and everybody believes it, and then we can go out and deliver to the community.
Right.
You all do such an awesome job of that,
Yeah.
because it doesn't take much to bring down a brand either.
Yeah, well, Oconee State Bank does a great job too. We're big fans of Neil and team over there. Okay, well, I'm going to leave you guys with really one takeaway. Maya Angelou says this quote, and it is my favorite quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And my mom actually says that, and my mom's in the room this morning. She's an employee benefits broker if anybody needs health insurance. And she says, how you make a person feel is the most important thing about you. Well, I would turn that on its head for this talk and say, how you make your customer feel is the most important thing about your brand. Shonda said that as well. So I hope you guys take what we've talked about today and all of the different talks and topics that are being brought forth through the Stronger Business Summit, and you do build a stronger brand with these touch points and these small things that make a big difference, like popcorn at Disney World. So if you need me, you can reach out to me at Brittany at See.Spark.Go.com. We all have really fancy GIFs on our team website. And happy to help talk about branding further, talk about your specific needs, and how you are communicating what it is that you offer consumers. Thank you so much for joining.